So when you hear me say that, I help women of who are Christians, Christian women of Caribbean heritage or Caribbean origin, overcome barriers to become highly sought after leaders. I needed to know that I've experienced that and that I can sit in that, understanding what success is in that space. So I clarified in my own journey where I've approached barriers, how I overcame them, and how I was positioned as a sought after leader. I want you to also know there are different levels, and God seeks to continue to bring you higher. He wants to position you where your light can shine so that you can do a greater work for Him. So this is my identity. It is my journey. I mean, this calling, this journey, the why for that purpose is because it is my journey. And as I continue on the journey and I continue to succeed in it, God has continued to guide me through the different seasons and territories, and He's positioning me now for dominion across regions. Now, you need to understand and claim your positioning. Do not be timid or afraid to open your eyes to the vision that God has for your destiny. So I declare it here again, as I say, God has guided me through the different seasons of my life, the different territories I have worked in, the people I have associated with in those territories. And He is positioning me now for dominion across regions. So let's get into it. Well, by now, I think you know that I am from the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and I was born on the smaller of the two islands, and that's Tobago. And Tobago is small. Trinidad and Tobago is small, but let's just go even deeper. Tobago, my little island, is small in comparison to the many others. But you better watch out because this is where success stories are born, okay? And it is declared, we have owned the statement that Tobago is the greatest little island on the planet. So small, humble beginnings, but big purpose. And my call to leadership began right there in Tobago. Church leadership, community groups, leadership in my profession, and launching out. I had a product distribution business and I was leading a team. And there were times where definitely I had to take brave steps. And one of those times was when I took a brave step to start my first consulting practice. I think it was last week when I talked about my moving to Jamaica and having a consulting practice there. And that was the first time I launched a practice away from home. But what I didn't tell you all is that I did this home first. Yeah. Okay. So I started my first consulting practice registered as Holder and Associates Guidance and Counseling Services. And now that entity is called Holder and Associates Counseling and Consultancy Services. And I remember back then, this is a couple years back. This is I'm not going to guess right now because I didn't recall the year, but definitely this would be before 2010. Okay. So I remember I was attending a seminar hosted by my then employer. I was working as a school counselor, so I was working within the education department. And there was a session led by Dr. Jennifer Holder Dolly of Dolly and Associates in Trinidad. And this is a highly revered practice consultancy, employee assistance programs, and different types of services. Okay. So you must understand now that I have had, even before this session, I had an affinity to Dr. Holder Dolly, partly because, of course, her maiden name is the same as mine, Holder, though we've never traced any family connection. But even more so, I admired her because of what she represents: a respected professional in the field of psychology, a professor, a clinician, a business executive, a woman. And so she was my benchmark. And there I was sitting in her presence. She came with her team. And I remember sitting there in admiration because there was a doctoral student who was, doing her internship, her hours with her. Anyhow, on the final day of the seminar, I knew that this was my last chance to connect with her. And though I was a bit apprehensive, I knew that I could not let that moment pass. Because I don't know if that opportunity would present itself again. So I seized the moment and I approached her and I expressed my honor and admiration. And I told her that I desired one day to operate my own consulting practice. So, as you would imagine, this is before starting anything. And do you know what she said to me? Let me just let you know that the practice of psychology is a highly protected, revered, ethical field. So you have to be very careful as to how you move forward and the type of services you provide and the levels of qualification to do what. So part of my apprehension was that, just wondering, her being in this competitive market and me, approaching her with this, she may say, well, you're not ready yet. You have to finish all of your studies and so on. But you know what she said to me? She said, go for it. I mean, that was shocking to me at first, but then I started just soaking that in. And in that moment, immediately, some of my concerns started flooding my mind. And so I shared my hesitations. I shared with her that, there is this public perception about mental health being for crazy people, mental health care, or any type of services surrounding psychological care. And especially in Tobago, that was not too popular, having folks having a consulting office. I talked about working outside of my regular hours. I talked about the ethical concerns and the whole business operation, But let me tell you something. It is marvelous. It is such a blessing to be given wisdom. You see, you can acquire knowledge on your own, but when it comes to wisdom, that's a whole different matter. Wisdom is the power to see the end from the beginning. Wisdom is having it all in your scope and then taking those guided steps accordingly. Everyone needs it, but many of us fail to tap into or to ask for wisdom. Yet our Heavenly Father in the scripture says, He will give. God gives wisdom liberally to all who seek. And in this moment, this was a moment where I was seeking wisdom because I couldn't do it myself, where I have never been on this journey before. But when I encountered Dr. Holder Dolly, that was my moment of wisdom. And in that brief conversation, she offered guidance. She helped me to see the path forward and to build my confidence for taking the next step. She showed me how to remove barriers, and I learned that I should not be restricted, because she really said to me, listen, if you want it, go after it. You do not have to wait until you have perfected or completed the entire journey, because my hope was to do everything in the field of psychology that I can, right, before starting a practice. But I felt the tugging so strong at that time that I had to confront her with it. And she said to me, move forward. That day is when I learned that nothing should restrict you from the destiny God has entrusted you. Nothing. Not even if it requires you to move. And you all know I did some moving, right? So let me let you know what happened next. I went ahead and I registered my business. That was the first entity, Holder and Associates Guidance and Counseling Services. And when I shared, I remember, I mean, as I was going through the process, I was just reminiscing on the whole experience with her, and where I was able to journey through my fear, my passion, my fear, confronting it, approaching her, her helping me to remove those barriers and all of that, you know. And I also remember her telling me, now, if you make your efforts in Tobago and it's not working out, then move to Trinidad. And you know what? That's exactly what I ended up doing, you know. But I'll tell you that in a little bit, because I want you to know. So after I opened the office in the town. I invested and I opened the office in the town of Scarborough. That's the main town in Tobago. And as I said, at that time, I was working as a school counselor, and I already had my master's in educational psychology. Okay. And I recall telling a colleague one day, I was at the general office with all of my colleagues, and I remember sitting in a position where I was able to talk with one of my colleagues. And I shared that I opened the office and I was providing services outside of working hours. And their reaction was horrible. That person asked me, so what are you really going to do there? And I answered, well, the same thing I do here and more, based on what I'm qualified to do, but outside of working hours and with the clients who are not a part of my regular, the regular work, my regular duties, because I wanted to tread, very carefully, not going into ethical boundaries. And the response, even after declaring that, was one of ridicule and scorn. But let's fast forward. Let's fast forward to about 1 year after that. You know what I did? I did just what Dr. Holder Dolly said to do if I was coming up against too much hindrances, pressures, and barriers. I left my home. I left my comfort zone because my location was holding me back from my destiny. And sometimes the first step forward, sometimes your first step forward is to leave the environment of discouragement. So yes, I had to leave my job, my family. I wasn't married at the time, so it was my mom and dad, my home. But I stayed within my territory because it was in Trinidad I moved to. But little did I know, by taking that step, God had already started expanding my dominion. Right? You know, we ask the prayer of Jabez, enlarge my territory, Lord. And he has continued to do so as I walk by faith, making impact and entering new territories. I've worked or ministered in Trinidad, in Martinique, in Jamaica, in Antigua, in the US Virgin Islands. And then, without me even being ready, without me even realizing what was coming upon me in the moment of uncertainty, when the entire world was in uproar and felt a sense of what next during the pandemic, God positioned me to move to the US mainland and expanded my reach, not only to territories, but now to regions. And I do so through the work of Blessed Community International and in my professional field. So today, I want us to understand what I'm saying here. What is the real issue you're facing that is holding you from confronting your destiny? Maybe the problem is that you have not even yet faced or confronted your destiny. What is the vision that God has given to you, and where is he leading you? Maybe you have already understood his leading, but now you need to know more. And without fully understanding what is or how or what is the next step, you need to seek guidance from God. You need to seek someone who has the wisdom because they've been there and done that. Who's your mentor guiding you on this journey? Understand the value of a mentor and a guide as you go through life. And in this season right now, whomever you desire to be, God is calling you to lead. He's calling you up higher. You may not start off leading, but he's calling you up higher, elevating you. It's your time. It's your time to elevate. It is time to advance. What are you waiting for? So I pray today that you would accept the calling. And, again, my offer is on the table. I am here to serve you. There is a link in the chat. At the top of the chat, it should be there. I think I pinned it. You can go through and find that link. Click on it. That's going to land you on my page where you can schedule a session with me. And this is totally free. If you click on the button that says book a 3-day challenge or a 5-day challenge, whichever you see there, or you send me a message letting me know what is your desire and what are some of the barriers you've encountered that is keeping you from moving forward. I am here for you. And within our network of leaders, we are here for each other. Because we do not journey alone. We are an entire group of blessed women. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for listening to this part of my story. And I pray that you were encouraged to take the next step. God's blessings. And see you next time for Launch and Brunch, where we pause, pour, and propel. Take care.